It's just over 3 weeks until the UK is due to leave the EU, and the country is still seeking legally binding changes to a Brexit deal. Prime Minister Theresa May has promised Parliament will get to vote on a revised deal by March 12th, after her original deal was overwhelmingly rejected in January. The opposition has now accused her of bribing lawmakers and buying votes. That's after the government launched a new fund on Monday that's mainly targeting towns that support Brexit. The so-called Stronger Towns Fund aims to create jobs, train people, and boost economic activity across the UK. Many of these towns located around former coal fields and on the coast are pro-Brexit. The package includes $2.1 billion of government support over 7 years. $1.3 billion have already been allocated. A further $790 million will become available for communities around the country. But some opposition lawmakers called the fund Brexit bribery, and critics say it's neither hugely significant nor would it make up for recent government cuts. The government has denied it intends to win support for Theresa May's exit deal and that the funding will be given regardless of the outcome. Geraint Johnes joins me now from Lancaster in the UK. He's a professor of economics at the Lancaster University. Thank you for joining us here on Money Talk. So how were these towns chosen to receive the money? And isn't it exactly what the criticism alleges, that this amounts to bribery?
Well, hello, Rachel. This Stronger Towns Fund is an amount of £1.6 billion, which is going to be allocated over a period of 7 years. So it's not terribly much per year, and it's been allocated across the country on a needs-based formula. And that means that most of the funding is going to regions in the north of England and also in the Midlands. So out of the £1 billion that has been allocated already, 900 million of that is going to the north and to the Midlands. The remaining 0.6 billion is going to be competitively allocated across all parts of England. So most of it has already been allocated, and it is to areas that, as you say, did vote predominantly for Brexit. It's going to towns. In one respect, it can be regarded as a continuation of the City Deals project that the government has been engaged in recent years, and also the Wave 2 growth hubs that are focused on second-tier cities in the UK. So now they're moving on to towns, the kind of third tier of urban areas. The framing of this by Theresa May in the announcement today did link it to Brexit, and therefore it's inevitable, given the discussions that have been going on in recent weeks, that this should be construed as some kind of bribe. So on one hand, it is a continuation of regional and urban policy in the UK. On the other hand, it can be construed as something of a bribe. If it is a bribe, then it is small money, because if we view this £1.6 billion over 7 years in context, some £16 billion, that's 10 times as much, is going to be lost as a result of European Social Fund and European Regional Development Fund monies that will not be going to the regions. And likewise, there's a loss of around £15 billion over a similar period in terms of what's been lost to local authorities as a result of the central government's austerity programme in the UK. So this really is small beer indeed.
Okay. So where is this funding coming from, and how is it expected to be used, or is it just up to the towns to decide for themselves?
It's new money that's being brought forward from the upcoming spending review that is happening later this year. So the government will need to find that from essentially taxpayers' contributions in the UK. And how it's going to be spent, like the European Regional Development Fund and the European Social Fund, it's going to be spent on generating employment, on things like training, on promoting small firms, small business development in these areas.
So we have just over 3 weeks now until Brexit is supposed to happen. But how likely now is it that we could see a delay? Is support growing for pushing the exit date back, or even for a second referendum?
We still have very little idea of what is going to happen. The European Research Group, which is the group of hardline Brexiters in the Conservative Party, are saying that they will accept certain changes in the backstop arrangements that have been so problematic. They're saying they still need to have either an end date to the backstop or some way in which the UK can unilaterally remove itself from that backstop. Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General, who's been negotiating this with the European Union in recent weeks, has said today that that he's giving up on finding a time limit to the backstop or a way of unilaterally extricating the UK from that backstop, and is now concentrating on arbitration measures. Now, the withdrawal agreement, in Article 170 of the withdrawal agreement, there are already arrangements there for an arbitration mechanism. Okay. And the problem with arbitration is, of course, there has to be an independent arbiter. That means that the UK wouldn't be able unilaterally to extricate itself from the backstop. So there's a number of ways forward. Possibly May's deal could go through next week. It may go through with the so-called Kyle amendment that the Labour MP Peter Kyle is proposing. That would mean that it would have to be followed by a confirmatory referendum, or there are other routes, an extension that could likewise lead to
Geraint, we're going to have to
referendum.
leave it there. Thank you so much.